You've never been able to own a home. All of a sudden, home prices are whacked 30 or 40%. You're able to do that. Because of how Trump goes after the budget, when his rate of borrowing for the US government goes down, your mortgage rate goes down. Now, all of a sudden, you can enter in because home prices are less and you can actually get a mortgage. They may all seem very random, but they can come together in giving 50, 60 million people a shot that they have been screaming since the great financial crisis they don't have.
Chamath Palihapitiya, comedian Andrew Schulz, and David Friedberg present a stark picture in the most recent episode of the All In podcast, one that many have sensed, but few have expressed. Once characterized by financial stability, upward mobility, and home ownership, the American dream has been eroding. The middle and working classes have struggled to survive, while asset holders have profited from artificially inflated markets. The system is currently going through a painful reset. The housing market may be the next to collapse, which would provide long-awaited opportunities for millions of people who have been priced out for years. Stock prices are already dropping. Some will experience hardship as interest rates change and the balance of economic power shifts, while others might discover new opportunities. Financial markets have been operating on borrowed time for more than 10 years. Those with access to inexpensive debt and financial clout have benefited from an unparalleled surge in asset inflation since the great financial crisis. Real estate values surged, stock prices surged, and individuals who were adept at using the system to their advantage accumulated wealth at a rate that was unsustainable and far higher than what would be permitted in a typical economy. However, this period of fictitious wealth is starting to fall apart. The process of unwinding has begun, exposing a harsh reality. A large portion of what we once thought was economic growth was actually an illusion supported by careless monetary policies and government intervention. What comes next then? Will financial manipulation perpetuate the cycle? Or is this the long overdue correction that will level the playing field? Could decentralized alternatives like Bitcoin become the new cornerstone for wealth preservation as centralized financial structures fail? Remember to subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, and like and share the video.
I've been saying it for months. Nobody cares about the stock market, nor should we. And the reason is because we, people who own these assets, have overly benefited more than we've deserved for the last 15 years. Ever since the great financial crisis in the United States, people who, as Jason said, could cozy up. And by the way, Jason, I think the claim that you made, which is severely true for how from 2007 up until now has played out. Because if you look under all the programs, if you could have lobbied Obama in those critical years of the GFC,
yep.
Oh my God, the amount of money that was, no, because we took interest rates literally to zero. Anybody like us who could have gone and gotten levered up and gone into the stock market was richly rewarded. And the problem is we left everybody else behind. And I think the great thing about Trump is he is going to reset that. He is going to take a lot of wealth away from asset holders. You're seeing it every day, 500 billion, 500 billion. There is no sympathy. I think it's fantastic. I think there's one big shoe left to drop. I think we've started the process of really, really taking a bunch of heat out of the asset markets like equities. So we've taken trillions and trillions of dollars of wealth away. I think we're going to take trillions more. But the next big market, and this is actually where, Andrew, to your point, we reestablish some hope, I think for a lot of people, is we are going to whack the housing market. It's just going to happen. And let me just say something about that.
How is that going to happen, Chamath? Explain it. Because there's 7 million homes that we still need to build to service just current demand. How does that actually happen with the supply-demand problem in your mind?
There are a bunch of mechanisms that have to get cleaned up right now. Okay. So one mechanism is that there are a whole host of mortgages that are basically being propped up. It was a program that really got out of control under the Biden administration. Nick, you can find this article. It was in the Wall Street Journal. We are going to figure out how to get these two government-related agencies, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, out of what's called conservatorship. And these are the folks that are responsible for essentially wrapping guarantees around mortgages so that the mortgage market can function. The details don't particularly matter that much. But the point is that what we are doing is we are unwittingly propping up with American taxpayer dollars the U.S. housing market. Why is that bad? It is locking an inordinate number of people from that first critical step that actually makes them feel like they are winning and they're on their way to achieving their dreams, which is, can I make a deposit on a home and then can I live this out? And you have these artificially inflated prices all around the country as a result of this. So I think this next wave is deeply beneficial to the middle class, which is there is no reason, like you guys see it, when you read the Wall Street Journal, I think it is the dumbest shit in the world when I see an article, which is like, this house just is $65 million on 0.4 acres in some rando place in Miami.
Malibu.
I'm like,
yeah. I was thinking Malibu, but yeah.
But what is this? This makes no sense.
Yep.
And so when you re-rationalize a bunch of equity values and you re-rationalize the cost of a home, I think what you're going to do is you're going to allow a lot more people to find a more reasonable way to enter the housing market. And I do think that that's a really big step in allowing them to feel like they're part of the dream. So you lower asset prices, you can own some stocks, maybe you own a 401k, or if you've never had a 401k but your employer offers it, for the first time, it may actually make financial sense to put a small amount of it in there. You've never been able to own a home, all of a sudden home prices are whacked 30 or 40%, you're able to do that. Because of how Trump goes after the budget, when his rate of borrowing for the US government goes down, your mortgage rate goes down. Now, all of a sudden, you can enter in because home prices are less and you can actually get a mortgage. They may all seem very random, but they can come together in giving 50, 60 million people a shot that they have been screaming since the great financial crisis they don't have.
For many years, the guarantee was straightforward. If you put in a lot of effort and save wisely, you will become financially secure. However, what occurs if the system is set up to guarantee that wealth only reaches the top? The housing crisis is only one sign of a larger problem that affects the very organizations designed to help the middle class, such as government entitlement programs like Social Security. David Friedberg reveals another concerning facet of the issue, Social Security, during the podcast. Poor policy choices have crippled what was once meant to be a safety net for retirement financial stability. While the wealthy profited from booming stock markets, Americans' hard-earned money was trapped in low-yield government bonds, preventing them from enjoying the benefits of economic growth. The United States could have created the largest sovereign wealth fund in history, one that benefited all Americans, not just those with private retirement accounts, if Social Security had been invested appropriately. For many years, inequality has been fueled by this covert mechanism to ensure that wealth accumulation remained restricted to those with the right connections. The average worker was never given an equal opportunity to access the same financial opportunities as the elite. The suggested remedies, which only widen the gap, are to either reduce benefits or increase the amount of money printed as Social Security approaches insolvency.
The reason why we didn't do it goes back to what you said before, which is we had a bunch of very, quote unquote, well-educated, Ivy League trained people running these institutions. And the feedback, I don't even know what it said, but I can tell you what the memo said. There's too much risk. We've sensitized this model. It doesn't make sense. This is the safest thing to do. So it goes back to just like, we need a little bit more practical thinking. Like at the end of the day, why the S&P 500 exists is of all the thousands and thousands and thousands of companies in the world. You know how many companies in the world make more than $1 billion a year? More than 20,000. And of that 20,000, the S&P 500 is just the 500 best. It's the best of the best of the best. So to your point, Friedberg, it didn't take a PhD from Harvard to figure out that if you just owned an index of the absolute 500 best things happening at any given point in time, it would have gone up. 14 or 15 years old. And there was this is when Rodney King had the kicked out of him and almost died.
Hmm.
There were all these race riots in LA, and nothing had changed actually in America, but where I was growing up in Canada, the provincial government created a program that said, if you're a minority and you're on welfare, we'll pay for you to get a job. I was a minority on welfare. So I got a job, and it was at a startup that was just going parabolic, and their stock was going nuclear. And I lived in this shitty part of town, and I would see the controller of that company drive past me every day while I was waiting for the bus. And one day he stopped, and I went with this guy, Sam Legg. He drove me that whole summer, and he taught me, what does the company do? Why is the founder a billionaire? What the hell does this even mean?
He unpacked it.
And so I saw firsthand what it meant to work not for a salary, but to get a stake in the thing that you're working for. I bought a couple shares. It went up, and it was great. But then I really fell in love with this idea that I could understand something and own a piece of it. And then it really accelerated when I graduated from college, because I was like Friedberg, I was in debt, and I was like, how the f do I get out of debt? And I traded stocks on behalf of my boss, this guy, Mike Fisher, who I thank to this day. And I made so much money right before the dot-com crash. He gave me the money to pay off my student loans.
Wow.
And then ever since then, I was hooked. I was like, okay, I can learn this and I can deal with the vicissitudes of this. Look, the markets are brutal. There are moments where you just wake up and it looks like everything's working. And then there are moments, and this is what everybody needs to understand, though, if some of these programs work, where it literally looks like the bottom is falling out. And I cannot describe to people the pressure you will feel on behalf of you and your family when it looks like you're taking a 30 or 40 or 50% negative downturn to your net worth.
Yeah.
It inflicts a level of psychological damage that I cannot describe to you. And the bigger the numbers get, by the way, I told this story on Tucker. There was a period where I would wake up and I could just tweet and the markets would go up. They were like, what's he going to say next? And then it all stopped. And then there was a 2.5-year period where I gave it all back and then some.
Wow.
That's frustrating. Yeah. The Midas touch goes away. Oof.
It's beyond frustrating. It shakes you to your core. So if we do these programs, I think the Friedberg idea is just beautiful. It's lovely.
What about you, Schulz? When did you make it?
But just to finish, if we do it, we have to try to teach people how to deal with the drawdowns, because that's where if you don't teach them how to deal with the volatility of losing money, it's great when everything's green. But those red days, man, how you comport yourself, how you act, how you treat other people in the red days are the only days that matter.
Decades of financial mismanagement and policies that have disproportionately benefited the wealthy have gradually undermined the American dream, which was once a symbol of opportunity and prosperity. Low interest rates, reckless monetary expansion, and a financial system that was rigged to benefit those with capital have all contributed to the last 10 years of artificial growth, which is now coming to an end. However, this reset offers a unique opportunity, even though it might be painful. The true question is, will we take advantage of this opportunity to bring the system back into balance, or will we let another cycle of financial manipulation continue? Social Security, the housing market, and the larger financial system are not isolated issues. Rather, they are signs of a larger problem that will not be resolved by temporary government actions. A true solution would necessitate a fundamental change in the way markets function, how wealth is allocated, and how regular people can access genuine financial growth. One thing is for sure, the current system cannot be sustained, whether it is through reorganizing entitlement programs, changing monetary policy, or adopting decentralized alternatives like Bitcoin. We appreciate your time and hope to see you at the next one.